Again, welcome everyone. Welcome back for people who have joined us earlier to chapter 3 of our informal community conversation series on generative AI and its impact on our life and on various businesses. Just to introduce this initiative, we've had a very vibrant generative AI community on WhatsApp and on various other properties. And as a community initiative, as some of you might know, we started a series of talks, which we are now calling the Afraid to Ask series, approximately every fortnight. The first one was where I had talked about generative AI and tried to demystify it for people at a high level. Chapter 2, which happened a couple of weeks back, was with Dr. Henry Shevlin of Cambridge University, and that was about AI and consciousness. And today, I'm very excited to have a chat on generative AI and its impact on media, entertainment, and leadership. Chapter 4 is going to be actually revealed at the end of the webinar, so that's to make you guys stick on. And just a few community conversation rules. Conversation is encouraged, but for that, please use the chat icon liberally. We would love to see some of you if you want to switch your videos on. And we will have the Q&A actually at the end of this conversation. My guest today, whom you also see on the screen, as well as on this photograph, is Praveen Someshwar. Praveen is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the HT Media Group. I'm sure that almost every day in your life, one of their media properties, publications, radio, touches your websites, touches your life in some way or the other, because HT Media Group is across print, it's across digital, radio, podcast. There's an very exciting HT Labs, which is the group startup factory. And then there's Shine, which has rapidly become India's second largest job portal. There is so much I can say about Praveen. Besides him being the MD and Chief Executive Officer of HT Media Group, I can also call him a friend and sometimes even a professional colleague, because we've done work together. He spent many years at PepsiCo before this, where he had a global role, and he was the Senior VP and GM based out of Hong Kong. What I do want to tell you, however, from my interactions with Praveen, is that he is one of the most technology-forward media CEOs. In fact, one of the most technology-forward CEOs that I've had the pleasure to meet. And he became a member of our little community very early on. He's one of the very early members of the community. And so it's great to have you here, Praveen. Welcome, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Jaspreet. Wonderful to be there. I think, that WhatsApp group, what I call it, or that community, what you call it, it's just amazing. I wake up to it. Every time I have a break and I want some intellectual stimulation, I get onto it and I tend to read it, and I read it before late evening, well before I go to sleep, I should clarify. But because I do not want to dream about what GPT can do to our business. But hey, it's been fascinating how this is evolving, how this is, and what you are doing to it and building this very robust community. It is amazing. So thanks for having us as part of the community. Thanks for creating that community. But delighted, honored, privileged to be here today to chat with you and be at your service. And just be kind to me. I am, I claim to know very little of tech. I'm immersed around tech with tech people around me, and they use jargon all the time. And I keep telling them, decipher it for me, please. Just be a little slow. Sometimes I am a slow person, but I'm excited to change.
You're just being too humble, Praveen. I know that you were amongst the first people, and not only in the community, but in your organization, actually to get on not only generative AI, but AI overall, what is sometimes now called predictive AI. But it will be a fun conversation. I definitely intend to keep it very informal. And Praveen, so why don't we kind of start with this thought, which is there in many people's minds, and probably you're one of the best place to give us some wisdom about it. Most of all, and when I say we, it's us human beings. We usually thought that creativity and ideas were the sole preserve of our species. That was something that how we differentiated ourselves from, forget about machines, but even other living organisms. But actually, creativity and ideas is being amongst the first to be hit by this ChatGPT and generative AI tidal wave. With obviously the chat bot, and then all the stable diffusion kind of image generators, etc. This wave, this tsunami of almost creativity and ideas that this generative AI is bringing in. Do you think, Praveen, this will overwhelm us humans?
Hope not. I believe not. Let's put it that way also. Before I start, I have to say, someone said it, I think, and misattributed it to Charles Darwin, saying that it's neither the strongest nor the most intelligent who will survive. It's the most adaptable who will survive. Let's take a step back. When you say AI, what will it do? Will it overwhelm human beings? Take a step back. We moved from hunters, gatherers to agri-societies, didn't we? And we did it with aplomb, I should say. We invented the wheel to learn to fly and bridge cultures and societies. And that's how societies came into play. That's how this global world, if I may say so, came into play. From agri-societies to industrial revolution. That's how we urbanized mankind and therefore changed the way. And now, digital age, over the last 25 years, if I may say so, it's just changed the way we have lived. Okay. In whatever manner we can think about it, it has changed. It's changed the way we work. We spend a lot of time with our phones, computers all the time. We never did that before. As general managers, I was a general manager early 2000. I can tell you, I hardly used any other way to communicate other my mouth and other people listening to me. We were with people all the time. That's changed dramatically. How commerce is created, the retail experience has completely changed. Let's now talk about how cybersecurity has become the big thing, the biggest concern for our organization. That's a massive issue. And lo and behold, we are even dabbling in cryptocurrency. So it's real money going away to crypto, and that's as good as real. So I think, the AI transformation will be no different. It's going to change the way the world works. There's no doubt about it. It certainly sounds overwhelming at the pace at which it's getting unleashed right now. Constantly, I can tell you within my organization, I'm constantly told, so when do we embrace and lose jobs? And I'm constantly looking at them. If you haven't embraced it, you have lost your job already, in all probability. So that's the chatter which goes around, So I wouldn't disagree that it is sounding overwhelming, but I would disagree that finally human beings are an amazing race, and they will find their way to walk out. And I want to quote here, because I assumed you're going to talk with how overwhelming human beings, and Steven Spielberg, nothing better than him to state what he said. He said it in a late night show, and I thought that was amazing. The soul is unimaginable and ineffable, and it can't be created by any algorithm. And it's just that something that exists in all of us. And to lose that, because books, movies, and music are being written by machines that we created, and now we are letting them run with that, terrifies me. So even a man like Steven Spielberg says that it terrifies him. And why would we be surprised? the pace and the rate at which it is getting unleashed, it's overwhelming. It's real. It's seeped into all our lives in some way or the other. It's coming in at some pace, But the reality is, I think we'll find our balance. We will find our way to embrace it, to build on it, to unlock those countless opportunities it will provide. And as we go through this journey, the human race itself will be surprised at what it can create.
Lovely. So many things you said actually lead on to half a dozen things that I want to drill into in your opening answer, which I would love to know more about. In fact, you spoke about the soul. We're not going to spend time on the soul. Otherwise, we'll get into esoteric stuff. But the last such conversation was really about consciousness and soul. And it's surprising how many conversations I have where this word is entering into the lexicon of artificial intelligence. What I want to, however, still, if I may say so, poke you a little bit is on one of the things that you said. And for that, I want to, just share what I already shared before, but just for the audience. So you talked about the fact that there are people in your organization who are kind of sometimes worrying about it, etc. And one of the reasons why I've been very keen to have this conversation with you is that in the first initial moments of the generative AI phenomenon itself, amongst the first people who started kind of raising their hands and getting worried were from largely the creative arts, okay, but within that, media entertainment, definitely journalism. And so there was this famous news item which I've put out here where BuzzFeed actually said that we're going to lay off 12% of our workforce and use OpenAI instead. And I don't know what else it did, but it made their stock go up 100%, okay, almost immediately. Now that could have probably been very tempting, okay, to other such organizations, because it seemed to be something which seemed to be working. And so I just wanted to actually just provoke you a little bit with this and say that, look, is this something which you or other media organizations would be thinking about too?
Yeah, and especially after what has happened to BuzzFeed recently.
I
thought you'd poke me hard on it, but you were kind. All right. And are we concerned? Yes, we are. Now, why wouldn't we be? AI is going to actually, if someone is not concerned about it, I would be concerned about it. Let's put it that way. If anyone says you really don't know about it, and therefore you're living in your own paradise. If you know a little about it, it worries you. If you know a lot more, it worries you even more, as I see it. You go deeper, it worries what it is capable of. And am I worried? Yes, you are. I go back to, at some point of time, I heard someone saying computers are useless. It just gives you answers to the questions you ask. Okay, I don't remember who exactly said it, but someone said it. And now I would go back to the same person and say, hey, computers are all powerful now with OpenAI. You can have a thought and it just frames it for you, builds it on for you, and therefore creates it seamlessly the way you would have envisioned it, and it would deliver to it. So it's an amazing thing right now. And if that doesn't concern me, what would? Because that's what we organizations deliver to our consumers, our audiences at various points of time. And now here you are envisioning a technology taking over what we organizations did. And so therefore it better worry. Okay. Let me break that down on what it can and what it will, in my mind. I just believe that there is an efficiency part of it, which is cost optimization, a whole lot of stuff it can do. I think we had started on that journey some time back, and that's what BuzzFeed was talking about when they spoke about it. It's about doing things which were mundane, repetitive, really thankless, which was production, regular stuff, which all has got automated. And most of it has been happening or is in the process of completion and death. And that's what you spoke about BuzzFeed doing it. And that's really cost optimization. I think the challenge is what it can do transforming how we do our business. That really is the worrisome thing, because, or that really is the opportunity. It's the way, which side of the fence you're sitting. If you're on the fence, this side of the fence where you still don't know enough about it, or you're just scared to get into the tunnel. If you're on somewhere in the middle, you realize, hey, the tunnel's going to lead someplace, and it's getting more and more fascinating. And I think that's where all of us are. And therefore, the type of business models it can unleash, can open up, are just going to be unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I think you quoted it recently, but I would quote that all the time. Technology never replaces human beings. Okay, it's people who use technology will end up replacing people who don't.
Absolutely.
Now, you decide which side of the fence you want to be, because then if you are doing a repetitive day in, day out, consistent job, and if you decide not to change, if you decide not to embrace this technology, you can be rest assured it will be a threat. But if you do embrace it and start building on stuff, I think it's new possibilities, new opportunities for you.
No, absolutely agree. And I absolutely agree with this, thing that it's not AI or technology that will replace you, but a human being who actually uses it, who will absolutely replace you. And therefore, which side of it do you want to be? In fact, the other thing, which I'm also realizing, as I've been reading, etc., Praveen, and it also, kind of builds on what you said, that if you are kind of a professional or a person doing a particular job, the good people will become better and the bad people will become worse. Okay, in that sense, because the good people will actually use this and actually become better. Okay, and so, that difference, it'll make that difference also pretty stark. Someone asked me, will it make us stupider? I said, look, you know what? Intelligent people, it'll make them more intelligent. The stupid people, it'll make them even stupider. Okay, and therefore, it depends on where. Absolutely. So I'm with you on that. And I personally think on the BuzzFeed thing, in my opinion, I think it was done from a PR purpose. Okay, they just wanted to create this splash in the market, much like, many others have tried before, etc. But yes, there are certain obvious jobs, etc., which are going to get impacted because of this. Now, let me just move away from jobs a little bit and move to another area that you had touched upon. And as a media owner, as a content owner, I think it should be something which I'm sure you're thinking of. Generative AI, ChatGPT, has often been now accused of plagiarism. Obviously, the company is creating it. There are Getty Images, for example, other such original content creators have gone to court, saying that they're using human data, which is ours, not even attribute, no one has been paid. A few big media houses in the US and the West, you might have read about, are getting together, to kind of say that, look, where's our pound of flesh? You're using our content, original content, to be scraped, and it's being used as a learning data set. So how do we get compensated for this? Does this, as a very large media and therefore original content owner, is this something which concerns you, and what is your view on this?
Well, and you call it plagiarism, you call it whatever. The truth is, these foundation models need to learn. Okay, and there is no walking away from that fact. The truth also is, big tech companies are not used to compensating adequately content creators. That's another truth. We know the imbalance. Big tech companies are hugely profitable, and they are profitable hugely because I don't think they compensate enough the content creators, which enable them to drive such traffic and therefore such revenue models. These two are real truths, and let's not walk away from that. Okay. And as a media company, and you said a few people, organizations in the US, I can tell you a few organizations across the world are certainly thinking about it. It is a bit like plagiarism. There is no walking away from that fact, okay? Because I think these foundation models are being trained by content created across the universe in many, many ways. And that has, helped these models to self-create more and more content. And therefore, there is a starting point at some point of time where this content was getting consumed from all platforms. My belief, and like always, when the internet space started, people spoke about how it's going to lose a whole lot of jobs, how it's, the content creator is not credited enough. I think most parts of the world have found their balance. Most parts of the world, not all. Developing is still far away from developed, but the developed parts of the world have found their balance on how content creators are compensated by the tech organizations, the big tech organizations. And there's some level of honesty, if I may say so, that is starting being shown, that the content creators are really taken care of and given credit to. So I would say it is a double-edged sword, without mincing any words. Okay, till we don't find that right balance, I think it's some sort of plagiarism. But the moment you find the right balance, that's when growth will unlock itself, unleash itself. So you got great news is yesterday I heard the European Union has now put out a set of guardrails on how they would explore and how to. I think each parts of the world will find their own balance. Absolutely imperative to do that, because that's how you fuel off each other.
No, I agree. One of the things you said actually about the fact that the big tech companies are just not used to a business model where this is seen as a cost in their balance sheet, or in their P&L, and therefore it needs to be paid. And it's there's a scenario which also plays out that today they are being trained on all the content which is being generated by human beings, by content creators, big media houses, as well as individual content creators. The long tail is actually, I think, perhaps the one which will get, hopefully in this balance, there could be something worked out between the large media houses and
more Jaspreet than the media houses. I think if somebody is losing more monies, it's people like Jaspreet Bindra who are putting out content.
Exactly. So it's the long tail in that sense. But the more frightening scenario, which I've been told about, and this is just as not a question, it's just as an aside, is that now there is massive amounts of content which is being created at hyperscale by these AI models. And there would come a time when the World Wide Web will have more content being created by artificial intelligence than by human beings, and then it will be starting to train on data that it created by itself.
I believe it's already starting off.
Absolutely. So more synthetic data than natural data, and that's not a word we want to see. In fact, I'll have a question on you on this a little later, and the guardrails, etc., that you talked about.
I'm just going to take a second on it. Please. I'm sorry to.
Please.
Spielberg, after he said that piece, and he went back room and said a few other things. And he says, the one thing I'm most concerned about is the synthetic content it will create over a period of time. Okay. So it's amazing. Someone like Spielberg already believes what it could be and what could be the biggest challenge it faces. And that's where I genuinely believe human race will find its balance on how and where, what to believe in that synthetic content and not, as you go through this journey. But that's the fascinating part, I would say.
Lovely. Just before I ask the next question, I think we've just a couple more. May I request if anyone, has any thoughts, questions, comments, just post them in the Q&A so that, at the end of this, we can hopefully have some conversation around some of the things which we are discussing. So again, shifting gears a little bit, Praveen, and looking at you not only as a media leader, but also looking at you as a head of one of the largest companies, organizations in the country and also in the world. Mm, and with your technology forward thoughts, which I do believe you have those, how are you and your company reacting at an organization level, while there's obviously an individual level reaction towards this new, perhaps fundamental new technology which has come in and is going to start affecting people's lives and businesses? Some of the things you have thought of doing or started doing.
It's, you know, there is no right answer for this. There is no wrong answer. But the way I think about it is, you need to understand what this technology can do or can't do and how it's going to change the world. The more deeper you go, the better it is. Post that, you need to inspire, understand, inspire, and stand out there, take tough questions within your organization, make tough statements within your organization. And I'm going to talk a minute later about how yesterday in a meeting I made a statement and someone stared at me and said, really? So, you want to tell us this, that how AI will eat our lunch? So, so that's inspires. Tell them the truth, but tell them how we are going to work around it. Okay. Invest in building capability. Okay. And then nurture people to embrace the day. It's going to be a journey, understand, inspire, invest, and nurture. That's how I believe the model works, as in my simple way of living. I used to work with a beverage and a snack company. We would put smiles back on people's faces. Okay. And, if you see how the beverage companies evolved, 120 years back, they sold beverages in a pharma store.
Oh,
okay, that's how beverages was. Okay. It moved from pharma to groceries. Then it moved to supermarkets. Then it moved inside homes. Then it moved to theaters. It moved to everywhere you needed a beverage or you needed to put smiles on your face. That's the way we looked at it. It's the same thing about a snack. Okay. And that business, in spite of everything happening, grows at a 5 to 7% CAGR for the last 100 years. Okay. And that's a massive value creator. That's 5% GDP growth for a country or 7% GDP growth for a country. That's amazing, right? And that's how that business has grown. How have they done it? They've done it by making that product available at arm's reach for consumers who want to consume it and want to put a smile on their face or get a smile in their hearts. That's how I would put it. I think content is no different. Consumption of content has dramatically increased. Okay, creation of content has dramatically increased. Therefore, there is a lovely demand-supply balance. Content's consumed all over the place. Go back to where content creation started. If you go back 500 years back, content was even then created. Okay, there was small street plays, street dances, street communication, the messenger from the king or the royalty talking about what's going to happen, how the tax is going to change and all of that. That's how content was created. Cut to today's space. Content's created on people's platforms. Content could be text, video, audio, whichever form, but it's content. Content's created in newspaper, in physical form, in digital, in audio, in video. But typically, the way content is delivered is come to my platform and consume it. Buy my newspaper and consume it. Okay, come to my TV channel and consume it. Okay, over the last 10 years, search content has grown, social content has grown, and that's grown dramatically. It's like my equivalent of a beverage example of people going into a theater and wanting a lovely beverage. Okay, so now cut forward, I think people on social platforms suddenly saying, I need to know what's happening in the world right now. Sometimes it's news, sometimes it's about various other things, gossip or whatever it is. But I think it's evolving. And now you see it across social locations. I think tomorrow, content will be created by content creators like Jaspreet or organizations like ours. And they will be provided on APIs on platforms people consume it. I think the days of it will only be available on hindustantimes.com will be over. It is dated in my mind. I think it's going to be provided, and there will be a monetization model we will create, whereby Jaspreet consuming content created by, if I may say, hindustantimes.com or mint.com, wherever he's consuming it at, will get monetized in a certain way. We see it in social today. It could be tomorrow. It could be on his Uber app. It could be as he wakes up on his commerce app. It could be on his food app. It could be wherever. I don't think, and I can't even think about envisioning it right now. So the way I see it is, I think it's going to transform as we go on. It's really. Now, what it tells me is there is a massive innovation opportunity. And in the short term, there is a massive cost efficiency or optimization opportunity by using AI. So, we could go on as leaders saying that how do we build capability in the short term so that we can optimize our costs? But equally, how do we really envision our future for our organizations and let our people dream forward? In all this, keep your consumer, your audience front and center and work around them. Ask them questions, learn from them, and build on it and use the technology to unlock the potential. I think there is immense opportunity. You just need to, and I go back to what I started with, understand it better, inspire yourself and your organization better, invest in it, and then nurture it.
Lovely. Actually, you have taken care of my next two questions. Okay. I was going to ask you that as a leader, as a business leader, and you talked about the inspiring investing bit, and so how would you act as a business leader to this new opportunity? So I'm not going to again ask you this. And I also wanted to, a lot of business CEOs that I talk to, Praveen, are looking at this more as an efficiency play. Okay, more as a ROI, immediate ROI, efficiency, cost reduction, as you said, play. Okay, and some enlightened leaders, if I may say so, are looking at this as a innovation play or a new business model play. And I think you kind of spoke about both of them. You said there was something, there was a story you wanted to say about something which happened in the boardroom yesterday or something. I want to give you that opportunity before we move on to maybe my last question or to the audience.
Yeah, thanks for getting me there, Jaspreet. This optimization part is the biggest challenge because, you are redefining how we do things. Okay. So yesterday we were in what should I say? It's an operating monthly review where they say, what are they going to do over the next 3 months? And this was our digital content, news content business. So there were editors, there were techies, there were product guys, and there were marketeers. Pretty much sitting in that group. It was a very august group. I learn a lot from them. They constantly use jargon at me, and I'm learning. They've opened my eyes to things which I don't know. And they were talking about, hey, we introduced products on our platform. So we just introduced something very exciting on cricket, and we were all very excited about it. We were starting to cut that forward. We were starting to experiment and doing some beta work on education. And it was showing amazing results. So we said, and we were using AI in some form or the other. We've used it significantly over the last 6 months. So coding time has dramatically come down. Transcription time has dramatically come down. So you make it in one language, it's available in all languages. Suddenly, we could see and use the power of it. And therefore, the teams were getting excited about it. And rightly so, because we introduced whatever we did on cricket on one platform, and within a month, we had introduced it on 8 other platforms on our language product. And seamlessly at it. We did the same with education. And therefore, now the team started feeling as if they were superpowers. Hey, we can do that, not an issue. So as they said that, now they were talking, cut it forward, they were talking about a third product. And, and they were saying, hey, we need to invest in it. They've done some work, lots of very deep work, understanding the product and saying why they need to put it up on our platform. And as they did that, and they said why we need to therefore create it, and this is what the input could be, and this is what the output could be. I'm a simple input-output guy, as much as we can measure. And I looked at them and I said, my belief, and I just played around with Bard over the last week. I just got entry into it. They've allowed us common people to go in and start exploring. So I just explored a whole lot of stuff around it. I had AWS, because we have a cloud deal with AWS. They come last week and tell us, look, all these foundation models we have, don't wait for anyone. We'll give it to you free. Because you work all the computing requirement, you keep using our cloud computing. So that's why we give it to you free. So I was starting to dabble around a lot of these things. And I looked at the team and I said, tell me, how are we going to differentiate? Because I believe Google will come out with the same product. How are we going to differentiate it versus the Google's product? There was hushed silence. It was a telling moment, because I suddenly saw everybody drop whatever they were holding, typically coffee mugs and cups in meetings, kept it down and said, gosh. It took a few seconds, more than a few seconds, before the product guy sitting there said, that's a difficult question to answer. Not sure how we are going to be able to differentiate. So I looked at him and I said, therefore, should we create it? It took him a few minutes. It took the room a few minutes.
You must have thought, this is where I lose my job.
This is where you say, therefore, you're telling me, if I don't have differentiated content, what is in it for us to keep creating it? And that's, I think the pause is what is really powerful. Because when you pause and take a step back, you are ready to leap forward. Okay. I think I sent the team in a huddle, and we spent the next 1 hour discussing how we could differentiate on that product. We've not been able to come to what is the true differentiation. Okay. And, if I would have given them examples of other, communities which create that product, then we could have just said reach of consumers coming on our platform. But when we compare it with Google, you can't even say that. No. So therefore, you had to intrinsically, I think that's what, so there were 2 parts to that. There were half the team in that room saying, gosh, this is reality. This is a bad industry to be in. Okay, it's going to kill us at some point of time. There was the other half in the same room which said, wow, what an opportunity. We got to now think about how are we going to differentiate it for that community. If we can, we have a right to win. If we can't, we shouldn't be doing it. And trust me, I believe so, that the same team will go deeper and come back with why they believe they have the right nuances to differentiate as they go on. But I think the question had to be asked, and when the question is asked about big tech, people get scared. And the truth be told, now it is, you are fighting some of these big models.
Absolutely.
As you unlock your content. So,
in fact, Elon Musk and Wozniak would agree with you on the pause bit. They have written that letter saying, pause AI development, step back, think. Okay, and that's in another way you did with your team. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Praveen. We have a few more minutes, and there's a couple of interesting questions Usually I try and wrap this up anywhere between 45 minutes to 1 hour. Attention starts dwindling after that. And we have a couple of interesting questions. I thought I could look at those. I tend to prioritize questions where people have given names rather than anonymous attendee. So let's kind of look at Vishal. And what Vishal is saying is, though anonymous attendee has also asked an interesting one, so we're going to take two questions here. So Vishal is saying is that as a leader, how do you think HT Media will adapt this for secured access? Are you thinking about how data will be provided to the AI engine to reduce fake content, especially with respect to areas which are sensitive in nature, politics, defense, etc.? And the next guy has actually asked the same question in a little more direct manner, saying that, look, with generative AI, there may be a lot of fake news. How will a big media house like HT battle this? So I think both are similar. So I'm sure you are thinking.
If I may say so, Vishal, thanks for the question. The anonymous person, many thanks for your question. But I think, if I may say so, I think fake news is going to be less of an issue as you start using OpenAI. Okay, I think there are enough inbound checks on plagiarism very quickly starting to play out. The concern I have is synthetic news, which is built on facts and therefore, but I believe fake and therefore how it can be checked will get plugged. And I know we are doing a lot of work with a whole lot of people just to really get that right. But I believe that problem could be solved sooner than later, if I may say so. Okay. And I genuinely believe the big tech is very, very invested to solve that. And therefore, I'm not too worried about that. What I'm worried about is the amount of content which will be in play, which will be different views or built on some of the facts, so underlying truths, which will therefore color it in a certain manner. And that's what I'm worried about. And I call that synthetic content, a little different than fake content, is what I would say. So that's my part. And I really don't have answers on that one. I'll be honest, if I had, I would be delighted, because that's a massive business model to be unlocked. So I'm happy to partner with anyone who can do that. But I believe 5 years down, synthetic content is going to be the single biggest challenge.
Yeah,
it's not authentic, but it is not fake. And that's really what I struggle with. And that's what the second part, I think, of part of the question, there were two parts to the question. The other was privacy of data. Okay, and I think we do a good job of that. So that I wouldn't be worried about. We are extremely careful. I can assure you, media organizations have been burnt many times over on this one. And therefore, we are constantly evolving. We are constantly providing new safeguards. But we would be very, very careful to making sure that any data which is not to be shared will not be shared. Okay, and we are building enough safeguards around that.
No,
but the first one is a true challenge.
So on the first one, in fact, Praveen, you and I were discussing this particular conversation I'm having from T-Hub in Hyderabad. And one of the reasons I'm in T-Hub is that we had a little bit of an offline community meeting of people in Hyderabad who are also a part of this generative AI community. And I think the biggest thing was about this bit that you spoke about. And, I completely agree with you, and a bunch of people in the meeting also agreed that big tech is actually being quite unusually careful in many ways. And they're building guardrails. They're trying to see that, fake, offensive, etc. news doesn't come in, or these models have protection against this. I think what all of us are worried about, to your point, is that now many of these large language models are also open sourced, and that's where there's going to be absolutely no control. And that, in fact, brings me to the last question for today, which is being indirectly asked by the second anonymous attendee also, that now while there was a lot of frenzied excitement about this in the first 2-3 months after ChatGPT, the last 2-3 months, the worry has started. worries about super intelligence, worries about, the robo overlords, about us becoming, inferior to machines, etc., etc. So I just wanted to, now this is not as a business leader, this is as a human being to human being. Okay, I wanted to just get what you think when you see some of this this kind of speculation of super intelligence, etc. And what are your views on this?
Think about it. My simple analogy on that. Think about it. The first time someone went on that aeroplane, what did he think about? She said, "Where is this going to fly? It's going to be the end of the earth. How will it work? Da da da." But they realized after some time there was land around, and they could land safely. They could fly and land safely consistently. My belief, and my simple belief as a human being, and it's one-to-one, person-to-person, if I may say so, that as you go deeper into any issue, there is a sense of vulnerability which happens, which shows up. Okay, the more deeper you go, the more uneducated you feel, because you know the negatives, you know the issues, you know the challenges which need to be overcome to make this a viable, deliverable product. Okay, some of it we don't know and we will solve for. I say that, like, from hunters to agri-societies, from agri-societies to industrial revolution, from industrial revolution to this tech world. I think we are seeing the next phase of this life. Okay, and we should be really, really delighted that we are part of this change. Equally, we should feel responsible that we are part of this change. And therefore, if all of us as human beings tend to take that little more responsibility, I think we will find our way through this. Okay. So I believe, and you rightly said, the first 3 months was excitement. Actually, the next 3 months was deep concern, equal excitement, saying that this is all open source. Okay, there are both two sides to it. You don't need to pay that $20 credits. You really can make this work without any money. Open source, and therefore, I just believe, like everything, when you go a little deeper, you will be vulnerable. And that's what is happening. We will find our balance, our solve. What we need to be is excited about being at this time. What we need to be is be a little more responsible while we are being at this time.
No, you're absolutely right. Some of you might know that one of the things that I have my fingers in is I'm doing a master's in AI and ethics at Cambridge University, and frankly, there are lawyers in the room, there are philosophers in the room, there are regulators in the room, there are scientists in the room, there are technologists from DeepMind, OpenAI, Microsoft, etc. in that same room, and no one really knows the answer, like you said, okay, to many of these things. But we are all happy that at least we are having this conversation. And it's not only the excitement part, and there's this realization that, we need to be a little more responsible. We need to sit together, maybe, look at it at a model which was like the nuclear energy model in some sense, okay, where we had to kind of balance both. But I think that is certainly something. And I do want to leave this on this positive note that we are fairly confident, I think, as a species, that we will figure it out, okay, as we go into the into the next era, literally, of this technology. So with that, I just wanted to thank Praveen, and which I'll do properly right at the end. But what I also wanted to do just before I do the honors was to just tell you a little bit more about what we are going to do next time in the next, which we call now chapter 4 of this little conversation series. So chapter 4 is also going to be interesting because, I call this the supreme irony, Praveen, that the people who created this technology, which is tech, really, tech people, IT, are the ones who are probably feeling the most threatened by it at this point of time. Okay, so it's not all roses there also, because ChatGPT and GPT Copilot and a few such things can actually, GitHub Copilot can actually sometimes write code, do programming, do a lot of stuff that software engineers.
By the way, they are the most concerned. They are the most concerned within my organization.
So, and as you rightly said, over the last 6 months, you have kind of started using it, and you suddenly don't need as many people perhaps any longer. And for that, therefore, we're going to have these two amazing people. We're going to have Sindhu, who is the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of SAP Labs in India. And globally, she heads SAP User Enablement. And she's going to talk about more from a product standpoint, while Jagdish Mitra, who is the Chief Strategy Officer, Head of Growth at Tech Mahindra. Both of them also are in the NASSCOM Governing Council. And so they see this from another vantage point also. Is going to talk about in the services angle, where it seems the threat is the maximum. And India is this big IT services country. So we're going to have a conversation amongst three people, therefore me and Jagdish and Sindhu. And this in all probability will be on June 3rd. I'll obviously put this out, and so everyone will know about it. I look forward to having people there next time. And with that, thank you very much, Praveen, for a very interesting, candid, and eventually optimistic conversation with us. And thanks for taking 45 minutes, 60 minutes out of your very busy schedule. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaspreet. Thanks for getting me here. Keep smiling, keep building this community. These are exciting times for us. Just living this space at this time is exciting.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.